Hello everyone. Welcome to the third session of our TTT, Teacher Talk Time, the initiative that we're doing from Thinking's End. I'm so happy to see you all again, whoever's come for our second session back here. And a very warm welcome to all the new teachers on the block. And it's really a pleasure having you all on board. It was, in fact, a real big pleasure for us from Thinkeng to host TTT for the last 2 months. And we're really excited that we are keeping the momentum and going ahead with it the third month and with a much bigger group as well. So let me give you a small brief about what we do. So I personally started Thinkeng in 2020. And this was basically started with an aim to make quality English language training accessible to as many as possible. In fact, I would say the best part of Thinkeng is that it's completely remote, and the internet gods have been very kind enough to, extend the presence to a lot of remote places and make the language training accessible to a lot more people. Good side of pandemic, probably I can call it. And as an academy, we provide training for all age groups and all levels. And apart from our courses, we also collaborate with organizers for conducting workshops. So moving on from our courses and things, the reason why TTT became very important for us is around December 2021 was our first session. We started this initiative, Teacher Talk Time, specifically because of the shift of education to the online platform. So while teachers, I should really admit, have gracefully adapted to this change, we did find that there was a need for a support system, more so like to share what is, just to get like sort of a small assurance that you're on the right track and to encourage teachers to still keep it going and also have an interactive platform where you can come and ask and clarify doubts. So for us at TTT, to be honest, it's not just about training, but it's also somewhere giving back to the community. It is, in fact, a very specific invite-only forum. So we kind of guarantee everybody that, you will have the space and time to talk and share and also give your experiences to people who really want to understand, how to solve a particular problem. So let me first introduce my team who makes it all happen for me. So this is Aparna Jayachandran. I'll just, can you just spotlight her, Nikita? Yeah, thank you. So this is Aparna Jayachandran, the Academic Director of Thinkeng. She brings in years of experience that sets the foundation for us. And we completely bank on her guidance whenever we have any new idea that props up. And next is Nikita. Nikita Rajesh is an ESL trainer. And she is, in fact, our millennial Celtites. So, in fact, she's going to very soon be the face of Thinkeng on social media platforms as well. Yes. And in fact, I'm taking this opportunity to also congratulate her because she's just completed 6 months with us. And it's been a great pleasure for us to see you grow as a trainer and explore literally any new challenges that is thrown your way. So really good job,
Yes.
Nikita, on that.
Congratulations,
Really
Nikita.
Thank you.
Very happy to have you with us.
Yes.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
So moving on with what we have on agenda today. So for all who attended our session last month by Mary, you would recall that we did have like a small brief discussion about error correction and like the psychology behind error correction. So we thought that this topic definitely needs to be delved into deeper. And we have with us today Sita, who will be conducting a workshop on error correction. And followed by her session, we'll also have a Q&A where you can also type in the questions in the chat window, or we can also unmute and have an interactive session. So post the Q&A, we will be having a resource review by Aparna Jayachandran this time. And we will wrap it up again with a Q&A. So without any further ado, let me welcome Sita Lakshmi Venunathan to our TTT today. So happy to have you here, Sita. So Sita has a Cambridge Delta qualification and is an MA ELT degree and has been in English language field for over 15 years. She has taught a range of age groups, course types, language levels. Her teaching style ensures that classroom learning is very relatable to lifetime scenarios, and also she makes it extremely enjoyable. So classroom, I would say, is like a home turf. She loves being in the classroom, and likewise at home, I think it's in the kitchen, if I'm not wrong.
Yes. Correct.
Yeah. So Sita is an exceptional teacher trainer. In fact, she's a CELTA trainer from British Council, and she has trained and mentored both newly qualified and experienced teachers. It's a great privilege for us to have you here for our workshop today. Thank you so much for taking your time out to share your knowledge and help us grow as a community. So over to you, Sita.
Thank you so much, Ambika. Hi, everyone. I'm really happy they asked if I could do this session. I love to meet new people. And I love these two very much, obviously. And I've just met Nikita as well. So I'm going to just start with, you don't mind if I move you around a little bit, put you in breakout rooms? Is that okay?
Absolutely fine.
Everyone's happy
Yeah.
with that? Okay, fine. If I go too fast or you can't hear me, you get confused, please let me know. Don't sit and suffer in silence. And then if we have any questions, I can answer them either on the spot or at the end. Okay?
Sure.
Before we start, can I just check what kind of questions came up in the last, you mentioned, Ambika, that in the last session you had some thoughts about error correction. So
yeah, so we just very briefly discussed that, how error correction is an important part of our classroom management and what all we do. So it was more so about the student talk time. So it was just like a brief mention of it. That's about it.
Okay, fine. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to try and share screen and hopefully you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that all right? Thank you.
Yes.
I haven't done this in a while, so I've forgotten what Zoom does.
This is perfectly fine. Yeah.
Ranjini.
Yeah, Ranjini's here. Do you want me to admit her? Or?
No, I admitted it.
Yeah, we've admitted. You can carry on with yours. I'll take care of the moderator.
Okay, fine. Yeah. Cool. All right. So just to start off with, I'm going to get you into groups, just small groups, okay? All of you have been teaching, I assume, for various numbers of years. Some of you fewer years, some of you longer, a longer period of time. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And all of you have had to face some kind of situation where you have to correct your learners, either because they ask a question or they've made a mistake, or you need to get them to a particular target or a goal.
Absolutely.
And I assume that at some point you yourself have been corrected, either in terms of language or in terms of your work or anything really, cooking, just anything. You've also received corrections. Okay. So in your groups, I'll just give you 3 or 4 minutes. If you can just look at these 4 questions and have a quick discussion. Obviously, we want to focus mostly on language learning, but if you have other experiences that you think are relevant, please feel free to share. Okay, so just give me a second to group you. Okay, all right. I know 1 or 2 people might not be able to speak because they're outside. You can maybe type if you want to contribute something to the discussion. Okay, and I will pop in and check on you in between. Sure. All right. Yep, you can join your rooms.
Have you put me in any room, Sita? Do you want me to join?
Oh, I thought I had. No, apparently your name is not there. How come?
I think because I'm running the Zoom from my end. So let me see which room has lesser participants. I think room 4.
Room 4?
So I'll join. Yeah, I'll join room 4.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ambi.
Hello.
Hello. We can't see the.
Hi. No problem. Hi, how are you?
Fine.
So let me share my screen. I copied the question on that. So, I took a screenshot of that.
That's good. I was trying to write down the questions.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So about error correction. Yeah. What is error correction? I think pretty much correcting students when, maybe not when exactly the mistake is made, but probably a little later.
Yeah.
And the second one, how do you feel about someone correcting you?
Well,
Well, it depends on if you're open-minded, you can
Yes.
take it in a very positive way,
Yeah,
because it
That's-
can be called as constructive criticism also.
absolutely. I don't know. I somewhere feel sometimes it's also the age. Like when I do have an older student, they are not
Mm.
very comfortable with me. Like especially the first few sessions, till you build that rapport, it's a very tricky phase for me to correct it. But with
Yeah.
kids, I have no problem. And when they correct me, I don't have a problem. I think as a trainer, we kind of get used to correcting and being corrected by whoever's observing
Yeah,
us.
correct. That's right.
So
yeah.
that way it's okay. What about you, Radha? How do you feel?
I find constructive criticism really useful. I note it down and I observe it myself. Sometimes I feel if it is not something I really connect with, I'm very intuitive that way. Like I
Yeah.
drop it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And how do you usually end up correcting your students?
Depends on the class type and the class size, I feel. Especially I use, if it's Zoom, then a mix of delayed and error, spot correction, plus the use of annotate and chat box.
Okay.
So that's about
But
it.
things have changed, no? Like from classroom correction, I find classroom correction to be
correct.
much easier.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
When it's face to face, it's much easier.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you find it more effective?
I'm an old school, so probably I find that a little more effective. Yeah.
Like I always have this doubt about whether my online error correction is good. Like, is it enough for them to realize? So that is something I keep having a doubt about constantly. And what do
the other thing is classroom. See, in a classroom, when you correct, you know whether they are actually listening to you and taking down whatever whatever we are trying to tell them. Correct. That also makes a difference. I'm not saying that everything is negative about online, but probably because we are used to the classroom teaching.
That's true. That's so true. Yes.
In online, I think smaller class group, and if you are doing regularly with them, that impacts a lot. I mean, that has an impact on them, like one-on-one session or 1 or 2 sessions. So that's
true. Yeah, like group probably it might be challenging.
Yeah.
But one-on-one, right? You're right. Yeah.
Group, they hardly remember. They come. It's like I find group online, especially spoken English. I'm sorry to say, I find it like a talk show. Like they come, they share their opinion and go back. It's like no follow up.
Yeah.
And one experience that I had with smaller children is that they just say whatever they want to say, and sometimes they switch off the video and they just move off. So what happens is they don't get to listen to others. They don't realize the importance of listening and learning from others also. That's more with younger children. Of course, adults don't do that much.
Yeah.
Also, from teachers' perspective, the third question, when and how do you usually correct your students? I find when I observe teachers, like this is one parameter, error correction. The problem I find is some of the teachers, I mean, guilty as charged, but the target language only should be corrected, according to me.
Yes, absolutely.
But they end up correcting everything together, and the student, or I mean, the learner gets confused. I mean, this on. So that is very important.
I think there I would also add on, because you're constantly also in your mind looking at, okay, is there something I need to teach new? So what happens is you're constantly, the minute you spot an error, you don't want to leave it off like that, and you want to immediately correct it. Where that I think is something the teachers need to pull back on, like we need to only correct tenses today. Like I'm not going to correct anything that comes other than that. So, I mean, that's a hard thing for the teachers to step back and also, I think, do. So, yeah. Cool. So, we will go to the main room now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've just discovered a new Zoom tool which I didn't know about and I was very excited about.
Really? Was it the chat to everyone? Kind
Yes, in the breakout room.
I
The
figured
mind
it with the
boggles.
smiley.
Smileys I can't live without, but that was just a real surprise.
Yeah,
A good surprise.
that's
Hi.
nice. Yes, we're all back.
Okay, welcome back. Did everyone get a chance to talk
Yeah,
about the 4 questions?
I, by mistake, moved out of the room before Mary could give her input. She was
Okay.
about to start and I didn't know what I went and pressed and I just moved out.
That's okay. So maybe we can start with Mary if she's in a position to say something.
I think so. As she come out of the breakout room, she and Sanjana must be having a discussion.
No,
they are.
they're both here.
Okay.
Mary, do you want to say anything about any of the 4 questions? I think she might still be outside, no?
Sita's still in the shop.
No problem, no
Okay.
problem. You can
Okay.
contribute later. I just
So
wanted to
sorry,
check.
Mary, I pressed something else and I couldn't hear your input.
Okay, so does anyone want to start off with just giving me a general definition of what they think error correction is, whatever you discussed in your group? Anyone can?
Sure. Can I go?
Yes, please.
Kavya gave a good definition, yeah.
Yeah. So I think we all agree that error correction is when a teacher is delivering content or when content is being discharged, if you see there is a sort of difference in or a sort of underlying theme in terms of how they've understood the content, and you feel like that's going to hinder the process of learning, then correct it then and there.
Okay, good. That's quite clear, actually.
Yeah.
Anyone want to add to that or say anything else about error correction? Okay, so how do you feel then when someone corrects you? Did anyone have any experiences or incidents to share?
Yeah, so probably I will go. So one thing what I noticed is, when you get corrected, it also depends upon the person who corrects you.
Mhm.
So in the sense, like if it comes from probably somebody younger or, somebody who you're not used to listening to, then it becomes a little bit of a, conflict in your mind. But otherwise, criticism or the constructive criticism, that's what we discuss in our group, is something that we all look forward to, especially in career and, in the job front. It's something we really look forward to as well. But personal, it could be a little variant. Yeah.
Yes, so it can be uncomfortable sometimes.
Yes.
Even though you know that it's a good thing and even though it's given in the best of intentions, with the best of intentions, sometimes you still can feel a little bit uncomfortable or unsure, or sort of immediate responses to feel a bit defensive, like, no, that's not what I meant, or I didn't do that. And I know we've all been there at some point.
Gone through that.
Yeah. So you can think about how students probably feel. They're in a more vulnerable spot because language is such a vital part of everyday life, especially when it's English and you need it for work and for studying and everything. Okay, so any experiences about when and how you correct your students? So I know I heard something about correcting errors a little bit later, so not interrupting students when they're speaking, but then someone said it depends. I think it was Ranjini who said it depends. Hi Ranjini. On what kind of activity you're doing. So any other thoughts on when and how you correct your students?
I think Maithili had something very interesting to say. She should share that.
Yes, please, Maithili, go ahead.
Yes, what I do is I normally have a collection of commonly made mistakes and I discuss those before we get into anything more serious. So
Okay.
Students are already aware. I was just telling Nikita that I could give you region-wise errors that people make.
Wow.
Yeah, that's true though, isn't it? Because each state, each sort of, even each community, each religion, everyone has their own way of speaking.
So we have a long list that we go through usually as one of the earlier sessions in any training. So people are already aware that this is wrong and this is the better way to say it.
Oh, that's lovely. And do students remember and do they apply those corrections when they're...
Most of them do. I luckily teach mostly adults, postgraduate students.
Okay. So they're kind of used to it.
Are a little higher, yes. So.
Okay, that's very interesting. I haven't heard that before, and I might steal your idea, Maithili. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Okay, any other? So we've got correcting errors before, we've got correcting errors after. Does anyone correct errors during a lesson or an activity or anything else? Silence.
Yeah.
Yes, Chitra, go ahead.
Sometimes.
Controlled practice stage.
Yes, sometimes we do it.
Only during controlled practice. If I feel that, they haven't understood the TL or target language, there's a real problem with the understanding. Then, but I'm very sensitive myself to
correction.
So I'm very careful. I feel majority of students are a bit sensitive, understandably so.
Yeah.
I try to be as careful as possible.
Okay, I think that's a nice word to use, is be sensitive about your corrections. Someone mentioned, sorry, go ahead. Aparna.
Sorry. When you're correcting them, especially on the spot, we don't tell them you're wrong. We just repeat that particular sentence or a particular word and give a quizzical look at them. So they'll be doubtful whether it is right or wrong. Let them think, and then probably if they still don't get it, then we correct it.
Yeah, there are lots of different ways to correct, rather than saying, wait, stop, that's wrong.
Yeah,
no. Because that's just kind of like, oh my goodness, what did I do?
Yeah.
And anyone who was speaking will probably panic and stop speaking. I know I feel that way. So okay, so you can correct during as well. Like Chitra said, it depends on what kind of task. If it's something very focused, maybe like a grammar point or vocabulary, something like that, then you want them to correct it then before they, someone else mentioned unlearning. So before they sort of learn the wrong thing, practice it, and then you correct them later, you might miss that opportunity to correct them at the right moment. Okay, what kinds of things do you usually correct?
I usually think one good perspective I actually got from Ambika today was, when I observe teachers and all, especially for me, correcting the target language in that lesson was very important. Like teachers often tend to correct all the mistakes and not just focus on the TL. And the question was always why, for me. So she gave a very good perspective that sometimes, when they become passionate during learning, they want to teach something new. So that was actually a new perspective.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll balance that out.
Yeah, sometimes you need to just focus on what you're teaching, the target language or the aim of your lesson, so that students can really understand it and go away being able to use it. But sometimes you can branch out and you can focus on other things, or you'll notice a phrase that they've misused that you think, oh, they have to use that correctly, otherwise they're going to go out and get in trouble. Or they don't have the vocabulary to express what they're trying, so you give them a bit more. So
maybe tenses maybe, I mean, that causes a big communication gap sometimes.
Yes,
I tend to correct on this. I can't help myself.
Just comes out, no? Okay, so so there's some good discussion. If you've got more thoughts, we'll come back to it a little bit later. I'm going to show you, hopefully, when my screen decides to function, some comic strips. So if you can just look at each one, read through it very quickly, and just tell me your thoughts, whatever you think when you see it. Okay. Has the first one shown up? Yes, it has. Okay.
English teacher.
All of you who have family members who are fed up with you correcting them.
I think that goes for all the family members and all of this group of teachers.
Yes. I know my parents sometimes are like, please stop. Yes.
Yeah, I remember there was a similar cartoon on WhatsApp that was doing its rounds. And there was a woman speaking very passionately about her father who was dead.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and
I remember that
keeps
video.
on correcting her, and finally she gets so mad at him. And she asks him, why do you correct me at this time? Is that more important than my father and all those?
Yeah, I think I've seen it, like a little video clip. Bonneville or somebody.
Immediately
shared with you also. When I was teaching in school, which is where I started my career, there was one student who came up to me and said, Miss, I have not done my homework. I am absent yesterday. So I said, I was absent. Not you, miss. I am.
I'm very glad you brought that up, Maithili. There's another comic strip which has the exact example, similar example. So yes, it can confuse our poor learners when we're trying to correct them, right? Okay, so in this first one, you can see that the person has just forgotten what they were saying because of so many corrections and all in between, sort of interrupting their flow of thought. Okay, have a look at this next one. You'll have to read the little text at the bottom.
Okay.
If you can't see it, let me know. I'll read it out.
Yeah, it's half of it is missing. I think.
Oh dear. Okay. I'll read it out. So on the board, they've got pond, sea, and brook is misspelled. At the bottom, the teacher says, the student says, "Are you sure brook is misspelled? It doesn't have a red squiggly line under it." Okay, so what do you think that's a reference to?
Kids are used
Technology.
to spell check.
Yes,
Spell
they
check on the-
rely so heavily on spell check
On
and
spell check.
the synonyms that word gives, and some of those synonyms are
Wrong.
just not all right.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, if you read IELTS essays, you will know that they've used synonyms.
In
that
fact,
don't make sense.
I've had a child, like one of my one-to-one kids.
Oh, Ambika, you've gone on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Perfect.
Yeah. So one of the kids asked me, "Why am I supposed to learn spellings? The word already tells me the spelling." And like, how do you really tell these kids that it's important? You know?
Yeah, and they're used to it everywhere because the computer, the phone, the tablet, everything will spell check.
I'm
for them,
auto-corrected. It's
Yeah.
as simple as that.
I don't know about you, but autocorrect never works for me. It corrects random things to random other things.
So dangerous.
And I send a
So
message and then
dangerous.
they send me a message back going, "What do you mean?" And I realized that it has corrected me without my permission into some random word that wasn't even relevant. So, okay, this was similar to Maithili's example. Can you see it? I'm sorry if it's very tiny. I can read it out if
we
you
can see it.
Yeah.
Aww.
So similar to the example you shared where the student has completely missed the point of the correction.
Probably happens to us too.
Yes, true. So there's one more, I think. Okay, last one.
Oh, that's quite small.
Oh my God.
Okay, so the teacher.
Oh God. Auxiliary verb.
It's like after Ramayana asking who's Rama.
Okay, so what do you think is the problem in each of these examples in terms of correcting a student's error? So the first one, what do you think is the problem?
Too much interruption.
Yes. So what does that do to the learner?
Yes.
Their flow of thought is interrupted.
Yeah,
Frustration.
exactly. And eventually
Not
they'll
getting
stop.
the point.
Yeah, they'll stop talking.
Not getting the
Yes.
point.
And they don't get the point, yeah, because they're just correcting, they're just repeating your correction. They're not really absorbing the correction,
Right.
which means they're probably going to make that error again. Okay, and in the second one, we've talked about technology. So that's just something we have to drill out of our students' brains, that you can't always rely on technology. You have to know spelling yourself. The third one, the plates on the table.
I think
Which
we
I
need
think
to
sounds
tell them that we
adorable.
are correcting before we correct itself.
Yes,
Yeah.
maybe.
The focus shifted.
Yeah,
I and you.
completely
Or
missed the
maybe
point.
say something like, "Thank you, that's so nice of you. By the way, this is what you should say," or something, so that they realize
Yeah.
that
Yeah. But
the
I-
action is appreciated, the behavior is okay, but then the way you say it is perhaps.
Very good. Someone was talking earlier about it shouldn't be a personal attack.
Yes.
An error correction is a correction of a language point, not you did something wrong.
Correct.
Because this child obviously is feeling very upset. Like, excuse me, I did the work. What do you mean you did it? Okay.
Yeah.
And the last one, what's the problem with the last one?
Too technical.
Too technical.
Yeah, too technical.
Yeah.
Too much terminology that a
yes,
student
yeah.
Terminology.
Information
Only
overload.
teachers will understand. Only
Yeah.
English teachers will like enjoy this joke.
Yeah. I'm not even sure all English
What's the
teachers
joke?
understand it, to be honest. So you don't want to overburden your learners. They're already
Yeah.
struggling with an error. You don't want to give them more things to think about. Okay. All right. So these are some of the things that you shouldn't do in terms of error correction. So now we're going to look at why error correction is required, like why do errors happen, and then we'll look at ways to do it in a more effective way and a more long-lasting way. Okay. So just very quickly, can you just think about some of the reasons why errors happen? Why do you think students make errors in the first place? And you can just put your answers in the chat box. You don't have to write long bits of text, just a couple of points will do. Feel free to read other people's points as well, so you know what everyone's saying. Very good. Very good. Okay. Times 2, Sanjana, thank you. Okay, so there's quite a list there. Yes, fossilized errors as well. Okay, so let's just have a quick look through L1 interference or mother tongue interference, and that could be the transliteration as well, where they try and translate directly, or which interferes with word order or even vocabulary. Sometimes the most appropriate vocabulary doesn't exist because that concept doesn't exist in a language. I remember someone saying they had trouble, I can't remember which nationality it was, but explaining the word subtle. Because in that culture, there's no subtlety. So they just don't have a word for subtle. I can't remember which culture it was, and I don't want to say the wrong one. The other one I find with Indian learners is they don't know the word pretend. Pretend is not really a concept that we know or use, maybe, I don't know. Acting, they understand. Imagination, they understand, but pretend, they don't understand.
To pretend to be what they are not.
Exactly. So that's something that is, so things like that could also be a problem. Does anyone know what affective factors are? So when it comes to psychology, education, these areas to do with people, affective usually is to do with emotion. So we say affective filter or affective factors. So sometimes it is just that they're shy or nervous, or that they've been made fun of a lot, and so they, trip up on their own language, or they're not able to retain accurate language or the rules. They forget things, or they're just too shy to speak.
Okay.
So that's affective factor. So that could also be a reason for an error. Have you ever had this either heard or been called Peter because you speak English well?
Yes.
Yes.
Although it's funny, it does impact you if you're younger, I suppose. It's you kind of feel bad, like, okay, so what am I supposed to do then? This is the language I speak. I know that happened to me. So if I spoke Tamil, they call me Mami, and if I spoke English, they call me Peter. I was like, I don't have a choice here. You got to pick one. So that impacts how you speak. You might make mistakes because you're more conscious of what you're saying, or you might avoid saying things to sound too fancy or something like that. So then students might make errors because of that. Someone already typed this, I think, overgeneralization. Can I have an example of overgeneralization?
So if you learn, sorry, go ahead. Someone else spoke first.
Was it Aparna?
No.
Okay, Chitra, go ahead until the other person comes back.
So if you've learned, I don't know if this is correct, but if you've learned the comparative, and then you might say like more good, you might use the comparative and the superlative wrongly.
Yes. So because you know that comparative is ER, you might say gooder, goodest.
Yeah, gooder, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And even in the comic strip that we saw, the putted is an example of, so all past tense must have an ed. So put should be putted. Okay. And that's a way of developing language. That's how a student goes through that process of language learning. but then there's a point where you have to correct it and say, okay, well, there are exceptions to that rule. Okay. Sometimes we cause the errors ourselves. Oversimplifying things, similar to overgeneralizing, where we say, you know, just put an S, and then we forget to tell them that some words or some, you know, subject verb agreement doesn't always take an S, or plurals don't always have S's, things like that. And sometimes we make a mistake. Anyone been in that situation where you've got something wrong and you had to go back and rectify it?
Yes.
Okay, don't feel embarrassed, because I think we've all done it at some point. So sometimes we cause the error. Okay? As long as we go back and fix it, I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Fossilization, you meant.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Aparna.
Especially when you're writing it on the board. In front of the students.
I can't spell when I write on the board. I always get my spelling wrong. So I end up, especially if it's words that I've prepared for the lesson, it's okay. But if it's words that come up and I want to add them, I always have to pause and think and maybe check. And then I just give my students a disclaimer. I can't see, so you check for me.
I once misspelled rhinoceros during an observed lesson.
Oh no.
Oh God.
Oh my God.
Always. I realized it later. I looked it up in the dictionary, so I couldn't sleep that night.
I know you feel so bad. You feel so embarrassed. I struggle with refrigerator, because fridge has a D in it, but refrigerator doesn't have a D in it.
Yes.
And I started writing refrigerator and thought, oh God, now I don't know whether there's a D or not. And I very cheekily took that off the board and wrote fridge. I thought it's safer I write a short correct word than write the full word and get it wrong. So we've all done it. Fossilization, obviously, errors that they have been saying for a long time, either because that's what they've heard, that's how they've been trained. It's not easy to correct. Any examples of fossilization? Maybe
I can't able to do it.
Aren't able to.
Oh, yes. My God.
That's my
Yes,
favorite one.
absolutely.
Yes, it is my favorite too.
So fossilized at one point, I think I started believing it was
fact,
fine.
I still remember in the staff room, we used to talk to them and say, are we actually right or wrong?
Yeah, start getting confused. I had one student who stood up and wanted to explain to me why can't able is an accurate grammatically correct sentence. And he had a reasoning. He had logic for what he said, because the can't was to do with
ability,
possibility, and the able was to do with ability. Yeah. So you need both for the sentence to work, apparently.
My
I
God.
was like, yeah, no, sorry.
Also, verb 3.
Yes.
Yeah, my friends have gone. They don't use have. My friend's gone to abroad. To abroad.
Yes.
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 Yeah.
Very often they use that.
Also, I told to her.
I told to her.
Not the auxiliary.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there are lots of these, and the other one is not knowing the future perfect tense. So in India, everyone tends to say, I would have finished that by 2023, whereas the actual grammar is I will have finished that. But everyone says would have finished, and it sounds normal
for the future.
Yeah.
They connect would with the future.
Yes.
So all of these are fossilized errors and are much harder to correct because it's so
embedded.
I wanted to use a Tamil word and say urified.
Yes.
Okay, so lack of knowledge is obviously an easy one, because if they don't know something, they're going to get it wrong until they're taught. Okay, what is lack of physical ability?
Maybe they have stuttering.
Yes.
Okay.
Or some vowel sounds or consonant sounds don't come out properly for some people.
Yes.
And some languages don't have some sounds.
Yes, like the Somalian language doesn't have a P, and they keep saying P for everything.
Yes. Okay. So even Tamil, for that matter, doesn't have distinguish between ka, ga, and her.
Yeah.
So to make those sounds, to pronounce and produce those sounds, unless they're taught, okay, where does the tongue go? Where does the teeth go? What do you have to do? And even then, it can be quite difficult. And sir and sure.
Yeah.
Of course, ver and were. So sometimes they just can't produce the language that you want them to produce because they're not able to physically.
True.
There are ways around it. Tongue twisters are a great way to do that, and a fun way to do it, but it does take time and effort. Okay. And sometimes they just make a slip. Okay? Sometimes we do it. We get little things wrong, or we miss a word or add a word just because of the pace of speaking. Okay. Any questions about these? Any other reasons you want to add? I think the ones you've got in the chat are kind of covered. Okay, I will take silence as acceptance and move on. Okay, just have a quick look at this. This is when do we correct errors? We've talked a little bit about this already, so I won't go into too much detail, but just have a look and tell me if anything, if you're uncertain about anything or you have a question. Yes.
I had,
Yes, go ahead.
when, especially while teaching corporates or adults, especially if it's a spoken English class, the hard level, because they have that ego issue when we correct them, usually from the corporates and also the attitude they have towards the content. So how do I, as a trainer, sometimes I find it challenging to deal with that, to convince them or.
True, that is that's a very valid concern. Does anyone have a technique or something they do?
I think Maithili had mentioned this in our discussion, the first task. She's saying about the body language and the tone that we use. I think that plays a major role in our correction process.
Very good.
So, yeah, I think if we have if we show the right attitude, I think they kind of sober down.
Yes, true. As long as no one feels like they're being, I like that word that you used earlier, personally attacked. That's one thing. So your tone of voice and the tone you use to do to make the correction is important. I also like to usually address that right at the beginning of the course. So on day one, I kind of mentioned that they're here to learn and that if they want to develop their English, I may have to correct them. Are they all okay with being corrected in the open forum? Most of the time they'll say yes. And once they've said yes, you can always refer to that. And it's about that rapport building as well. But I try and get that out of the way at the beginning of the course or beginning of the workshop or class. That's another way to do it. Any other thoughts on that one? Okay, we'll look at, in a few seconds, we'll look at different ways to correct an error. So that might give you some more ideas about how you can approach an error. Because rather than saying, okay, stop, you made a mistake, or that's wrong, or no, there are different ways to do it. So it doesn't feel quite as pointed out or targeted. Okay. All right. Any other questions or thoughts? Or shall we move on? Do we all know what accuracy and fluency tasks are? Yes. Okay. Yes. And TL is target language. And we've talked about attitude. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to get you to brainstorm a little bit, okay? Okay, so the first, probably the most traditional method of correction is to use terminology and say, you have to use a different verb, or you're not, where's the adjective, or your noun is incorrect or something. We give them the terminology, or please use the past perfect tense in this sentence. And that's one way to correct. Okay. So just back in your groups, I'm going to give you exactly 1 minute to brainstorm as many different error correction techniques as you can think of, or that you've used in your classes, or you've observed in other teachers. Okay. So you have just 1 minute in your rooms. So I'm going to open the rooms. Why am I inviting myself to join room 1?
I don't know. You might need to assign Radha to room 4.
Yeah.
I think she came in again. Yeah, I can assign her.
Okay.
The same here. Yeah, the same here. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll assign you to room 4.
So I'm going to room 4. Yeah. Yes.
Hi.
Back. Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
You're in our group. Yes. Okay, so the techniques that we use.
Error correction.
For error correction. So very recently, in fact, I started using this memory game technique with the kids classes, because if suppose I teach them something today, And on my presentation, I just have colored kind of flip cards sort of a thing, which I basically just remove it off. So I give them errors on one side and the corrections on the other, and they see both the sentences, but they match it when they open it. So this is for a really young learner that I do. I'm not quite sure whether for adults it might work. Yeah.
Anyone else? Would you like to go?
Radha, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so one, as we were talking about, now as they talk, I repeat the sentence and I stress on the wrong word. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I repeat the sentence that they have used, the very same sentence, but I stress on the wrong word. So then I give them a chance to think if it is right or wrong.
Right.
One. And another thing that we all do at British Council, we used to do was we make a worksheet with all the sentences. And usually it's a review on the next day when they come to the next class, the following class.
Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, go on.
I feel dramatization of certain words that really helps, like certain, for example, past tense, if they have to sleep, slept. It's like,
yeah,
the action you mean.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
That's a very good thing, especially with little children. It works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think everybody's leaving the room. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, welcome back. Sorry, I couldn't give you more time in the rooms, but I will be sending you back to rooms in a minute for a little bit of practice. Okay, we'll just wait for everyone to come back. I heard some really nice ideas, actually.
I think it's only our room that has come back. Yeah, all right.
Everyone's back now. Okay, is that everybody? Are we waiting on anyone?
Yeah, I think one group is yet to come. Yeah, they're just coming in. Yeah, I think everyone's back.
Everyone's back.
Before you start, Sita, I'm really enjoying this, but I have something else at 4. I had told Ambika that I'd leave a little early.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
I don't have the heart to, honestly. I'm enjoying it. Really sorry. So do keep sending me the link for your next meetings, Ambika.
Definitely, Maitli. Yeah, definitely.
Sorry about this, but I'll listen to your error correction techniques and then leave quietly.
Okay, fine. Well, it was nice meeting you, Maitli. Hopefully I'll see you again.
Yes, hope so.
Yeah.
All right, so here are a few of the correction techniques. Okay, and I'm going to show you it in a grid with a little bit more detail. Delayed correction, everyone I think is familiar with. You collect all the corrections, all the errors, and then you do it after the activity or at the end of the lesson, you draw attention to it. Repeat utterance up to the point of the error. So if a student has made an error in the middle of the sentence, you say the sentence up to that point and then you stop and hope that they have understood, oh, something isn't quite right. It might take them a couple of times to get used to this, but they will get used to your methods and understand what you want them to do. Okay. Finger highlighting. Anyone knows what finger highlighting is? Mary, do you want to? Mary's nodding, so I know Mary knows. Ranjini's doing it as well.
Just making sure that you tell them the sentence with the words.
Yeah.
And then when you read that word, you ask them again what it is.
Yes.
Okay. So if it is a contraction or just one word.
Yeah.
And but the first time you do it, they might not understand it.
Yeah.
But the second or the third time in class, they definitely take it. And I learned it from Sita, okay, from one of her observations.
Wow, I didn't realize that. But I love finger highlighting. Once you and your students get used to it, like Mary said, it might take a minute, but if they're missing a word, you can just do this and get them to add a missing word. If they've added an extra word, you can throw this finger away.
Sita, can you give an example with a sentence?
Yeah.
For people who don't know.
Yes,
Yeah, correct.
So if you say, I want to have I want to buy a dog. Okay, so the student says, I want to buy dog. The article is missing, and that's a very common Indian error, is to have the article disappear. Okay, so you can say, I want to buy dog, dog, and get them to add that word. Okay. So if the student says, I want to buy dog, you can just point to the missing finger and say, no, one more word. And the will, with the finger, dog, dog will tell you that, okay, there's a word missing. If they've had an extra word, added an extra word. Aparna, can you think of an example? I have some sentences, I think, on the next slide.
In fact, I think,
can I just say
this? Yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I can able to.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can, and I just put that finger down. Not needed.
Yes.
So what is not needed, you put it down. And they get it very fast.
Yeah. Once they understand what weird thing you're doing with your hand, the rest, then they understand what to do. Very good example. Thank you, Mary. Ambika, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, in fact, I think this is very effective for online classes because you're really close and you can actually, get to them in a very easy way. I mean, I haven't used it as yet, but I'm definitely going to be using this for sure. Yeah.
And it's good for tenses because they have to use an auxiliary verb, or, or they're using an extra auxiliary verb that they don't need, like did, went. Things like that. So it's really useful, and like Ambika said, you can have it really up close to the camera, and you can get them to do it as well. Sometimes they will put their fingers up and try and remember it that way. So it's quite useful.
Thank you. I think this will be useful for my beginner class.
Yes.
Where she always misses her is B verb.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very common one that goes missing, isn't it?
With a beginner, it is always that.
I know, but it's so cute how they try and remember and they try and learn so very simply. Okay, and the last one, asking a question, obviously, is just saying, for example, you might say, if the student says, I go to the shop yesterday, you might say, go to the shop, or you can say, was it in the past or did you go today? Something, you ask them a question to try and get their brain to flip it. And reformulation, does anyone want to tell me what reformulation is?
Yeah, the student makes an error. For example, I go to the shop yesterday. You tell them the correct sentence, like you say, oh, you went to the shop yesterday. That's so great, or something like that. So you just casually slip in the correct sentence so they don't realize you're pointing out their error.
Very good. Okay, so sometimes it is things that you've already taught before or corrected before. So rather than making it a big song and dance, you can just reformulate, and most of the students will be like, yes, I went to the shop. Okay, it might not work with brand new bits of language that you've just taught them. It works better with things that they already know or have heard you correct before. Okay, all right, so before I send you off to practice, I've done this little table. Can you see all of the table?
Yeah.
So you've got the technique, you've got what it involves, and the type of errors that you can usually use it for. This is not an exhaustive list. You can always add to this, but these are some that I use a lot and have found useful. Okay, so just have a quick look through. Tell me if anything stands out or if anything is confusing. Sorry, Sanjana, I've just seen your chat messages.
No worries.
And Radha's as well. Okay, any questions about any of these? Are they all clear? Are these types of techniques you've used before, or are they new?
What is wobbly hand?
Wait, hang on. This there we go.
Oh, okay.
The background is a bit
doing this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How come Aparna's background is fine and mine is a bit strange?
Your light might not be facing the camera, probably.
Okay, I will remember that for next time. So yeah, so you might say, you go to the shop. Where's my hand? I can't find my hand. Okay, you go to the shop. Go to the shop. Or if they use a word like a vocabulary item that isn't quite right, but is close enough, then you do the wobbly hand. Okay. Any other questions?
Sometimes for reformulation, when they don't get it.
Yeah.
So you went to the shop, right? Yes, ma'am, I go to the shop. No, went. Lot of leading question. Yes, ma'am. Yes, I went.
Yeah, sometimes you really just have to tell them.
Reformulation.
Yeah, once isn't enough sometimes, I know. And sometimes you just have to say, no, that's not correct. You can't say it like this. You have to say it like this.
Some students don't mind. I think in our Indian scenario, they really don't mind. If they, generally, they don't.
Yeah, most. The only people who might mind is like who said earlier, was it Radha or who's missing?
Corporates.
Yeah, corporates, or when there are different sort of levels of different designation in one classroom. Like a manager and a senior manager in the same classroom. Then there's a little bit of that. They have a reputation to maintain, so they might get a little bit antsy. Correct.
Women culturally.
Yes.
Because when I have had French students, Mexicans, they're not very happy about being corrected.
That's true. You're right.
Indians are okay.
Indians are okay, and I feel like other Asians, if you take Japanese and Korean students, they're very happy to be corrected because they want to be perfect. They want to get the exact right, perfect, accurate sentence before they open their mouth and say anything. Yesterday, I had a Japanese student, and he introduced himself, blah, blah, and he talked for about 4 or 5 minutes. I wrote down about 5 sentences that I wanted to correct, and he asked me if I had any feedback. So I gave him those 5 sentences. We then spent the remainder of the lesson, which was another 25 minutes, only talking about those 5 sentences because he wanted to understand it so clearly that we didn't get past that. So sometimes error correction goes that way as well.
Yeah.
Okay, can you just take a screenshot or a picture of this page just for yourselves?
Okay.
Sorry, Ambika, is it okay if I steal another 5 to 6 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I would like everyone to just do a little bit of practice. Let me know when you've all got a photo or a screenshot or some way of looking at this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've done it. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to group you again. And I've given you a list of errors on the next slide. Okay, just sentences that our students say. And I'd like you to take turns. So one of you will be the student and you will, where is this? Say the sentence as it is with the mistake in it. Okay, maybe surround it with 1 or 2 other sentences so that it sounds natural. And someone who's going to play the role of the teacher will try and correct it using one of the techniques. Try and use a technique that you don't normally use. Okay, so that it gives you a little bit of practice to do something different. Okay, would you prefer I pair you or put you in groups?
How many of us are there? Yeah, you could pair us. Yeah, we are 12, so yeah, you could pair us.
Yeah.
Okay. That might, I'm not going to put you, or one group might have 3 just because so that I can move around a little bit. Okay. I'm sure I've missed somebody. I will add you if I have. Okay, so you know what to do. Try and do 2 or 3 sentences each. Try and choose different kinds of errors to practice with each other. And feel free to give each other feedback or say, okay, that correction didn't work so well, or the finger highlighting isn't correct. Maybe you should do it this way. You can just practice with each other. Okay. Any questions what you need to do? So will everyone be students at the same time?
No.
Okay. One person's got to be the teacher. And what method are you going to use to correct their errors?
Something we haven't used before.
Yes. Try something new. And try and do 2 or 3 sentences each. Okay. So I'll just give you about 4 or 5 minutes in the room. Sure. All right. Off you go. I will pop in and check on you.
I think I will have to. I'll probably join room 4.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because I
that's
don't know if Jayashree is.
I have screenshot.
Yes, I have a screenshot as well. So if you want me to share it.
Hi, Ambika.
Hi, Jayashree. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. It's nice to see you after such a long time.
I know, same here. But I'm not seeing you. I'm just hearing you. Okay, can I put this one alone on? Because the other one, we might not be able to. Do you want the error correction one?
No. This one
This is fine? Yeah. Okay. Radha, what happened to your video? Hello, Radha? Are you there? Okay. Jayashree, one sec. Let me just try and get Radha in. I think she's got disconnected.
Yeah.
Just give me a minute. Yeah. I'll just start.
Sure.
Where is this? Okay, I can't see Radha coming in. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, let's begin then, Jayashree. Do you want to share the screen? Yeah, you can share the screen.
I just have a screenshot, so I will go through that and then I'll
fine. Yes, Radha's back. Okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay, we'll just. Can you see my screen? Is it visible? Okay, so I'll be the student first, and I'll pick one of the errors, and then probably. Okay, so the one I really liked was, "I'm going to heat you." I'm going to heat you. How do we correct that?
I'm trying the finger one for the first time. Correct me, okay? Yeah. I am going to eat you. Oh, no.
I don't think pronunciation we could do with finger, right?
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I don't think so, because this you can say, I'm going to pause.
Okay.
I think pronunciation you can't do finger because it's not the wrong word, right? I'm just like trying to also logically make sense out of it. So I think it is probably better if we do the pause, and then I'm going to, like, what is it? Like that question, like your facial expression, and then get the answer out of that.
Okay.
Yeah. We can also make it like, I'm going to hit you or eat you.
Okay.
Give a choice, you're saying. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so let me pick one more. He likes this school. He likes this school. I'm supposed to be the student.
Can someone do that finger thing for me, please? I just want to see.
Yeah, so let's pick one which...
I'll be the student?
Yeah.
Which one do I pick?
Anything, just pick one. That's fine.
He liked this school.
Okay, so he like this school. So then you like this. He like this school. So you can also add your, I think, face like, and then show this finger. So they know like that is the wrong one.
Ambika, one thing I find as a challenge, I'm just asking, if suppose the student doesn't have the knowledge at all about the S being added over here. So that
no, I think this, again, like how she mentioned, this I think would be effective only if you're doing it as a language they already know. Like suppose your B verb is a constant error and you've already taught them B verb, then you can do is. Like, are you sure it's is? Like it has to, probably if it's a plural, then you change it to are. So similarly here, the S would come like, and then show this finger. So that I think would be, yeah. Okay, Jayashree, do you want to try? I'll be the student.
Yeah.
Give me one butter bread.
Like, how do I correct this?
The sentence.
There's like a lot of error I feel in that sentence, not just one. Give me one butter bread.
Where is this sentence?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just tell them, are you sure it's right? What else can be added? Just giving them options.
Okay. Are you sure? Yeah, like a question sort. Okay.
Yeah. And then get the answer from them by giving them some options.
Okay.
And then making them use it in a sentence.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay. What do you think, Radha?
I think I'll do the one that casual one was there. Reformation, I think.
I was also actually thinking of reformulating the sentence. That probably would be.
Okay, welcome back, students and teachers.
Yes.
Was that easy to do, difficult?
No, it was fun.
It was fun, good. I like fun. Did you try any new techniques?
Yes.
Okay, anyone want to share their experience with the new technique?
Sure, like in our group, we kind of combined two, like when I was doing the finger one and the face one. So
Okay,
when you
yes.
say he like instead of like, so he like, like, you know, have a small facial expression, mix it up. So they really know that's the error. So,
it's very highlighted then. Okay, good. Yes, that's useful. Anyone else? Try anything new, or it needn't have gone very well, because when you try something new, it might not work as well as you'd hoped.
Kavya, you can tell.
Yeah, for me personally, I got a little confused because I'm trying to think of what these error corrections are called, and I'm correcting it. So I think I made an error correcting it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Happens to all of us.
But all of it was new. So.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think some of them need a little practice. Like the finger highlighting one definitely needs a little practice.
Yes.
But once you get the hang of it, it becomes easier. And you have to get the order right. Like it has to be left to right for your learners. It can't be left to right for you.
Yeah, I think I was doing that, right?
Me too. Me too.
Correct. Thanks.
So you've got to do it backwards for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God.
It's a very simple thing, but something we take for granted and don't even think about.
It should be like this.
Yeah.
No wonder Sanjana.
Yeah, we were. Because this hand was in the front.
And the other thing is, what I realized at the start of the session is I had my video on mirror. So if you have it on mirror and then you do your fingers the wrong way, they're going to get thoroughly confused. You've got to check all that beforehand.
So you practice before you do it.
Yes.
So you hold your, I think you should hold your fingers like this.
Yeah.
Not doing this.
Yeah.
So they cannot see your hand.
Yeah. True.
Correct. Or even wiggling a finger.
Yeah. This one. Yeah.
So that way it's a bit clearer. Okay. Any other thoughts?
I was a little confused when Ambika was doing he likes. I was stuck. So that's when I asked if the student doesn't have the knowledge of S. So that's when she said, common error that they do. They already have the knowledge, the concept.
Yeah.
So this will be good for that. That was a good one.
If it's something new, then obviously you can't expect them to know the correction. Absolutely. So you can say if they're using a wrong word, for example, like the one with improvise, I think I put that sentence up somewhere. That's a very common error. I've heard lots of people, including people whose language is very good, they use improvise instead of improve.
Yeah.
Yes.
So sometimes you might just say, okay, improvise isn't quite correct. You have a better word. Can you think of another word that's better? So you're still correcting them without telling them the correction. You can ask them to think. And if they still get stuck, please tell them. Don't spend 10 minutes trying to pull a word out of them that they don't know. But it's okay to do it as long as, like someone said earlier, your tone and your body language shows that you're not pointing out of fault, but you're helping them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, so that brings me to the end of my session. I apologize for having gone over a little bit or a lot.
That's fine.
It's our pleasure.
But yeah, so I'll just hand you back to
Awesome.
Ambika and whatever's next.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sita. In fact, what a wonderful session. Like, it was so interactive. And I think I wouldn't really need to open the floor for questions today because we kind of covered it during the session. So if anybody has any questions, we are okay to take them, or else we'll move to the next part. Any of you? Are we good to go? Okay, awesome. So let's go to the next bit of it, which is our small bit that we do, is our resource review. So in this section, Aparna will be taking you through the couple of resources that she's actually gathered, which can be very helpful for online teachers. Yes, over to you, Aparna.
Yeah. So can I share?
Sure.
Screen?
Yeah.
One second. Sorry, it's getting a little slow in spite of keeping it open. So before it opens, how many of us have been using resources other than course books? Or how many of you have course books which you can use? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we normally, as teachers, have some sort of backup of a course book to follow. But in case we don't have course book, or if you're really bored of the monotony of the course book, there are very good websites, and one of which I'm going to talk about is the Lingua House. And in this Lingua House, the advantage in this is you have the lesson plans for every level, and you have free lessons. So I have signed in as Aparna here, so you can actually see the pricing. It's taking quite a while, unfortunately. So when you log in free, you get a lot of free lessons, irrespective of the levels, the courses, whether it is general English, business English, or even for specific purposes. And for subscriptions, if you want to have a membership, it's $49 per year, which comes to around $3,700 per year. And if you sign in for that, you actually get a lot of extra lessons, which are very useful. It opens up a Pandora box for you. So here we have you type in a keyword and you have the type of English here, the different types of English. You have business English, general English, and you have levels from A1 to B. And for those who are not sure of A1, is the very beginner level who just basically understand few words and can probably make 1 or 2 sentences. And from there to the highest level. And you also have mixed level. Why I talk about mixed level is sometimes when we have a group of students, we may not have the, we may not be able to test their levels and take them as one group. So mixed level classes will cater to all the levels in the class. I haven't tried it out, but I know it is there, but I hadn't had a chance to try it out. And you have the lesson timings also here. Supposing you have already given a lesson the previous day and you're checking your homework, so you take about 15 minutes for that. You have a 45-minute lesson plan, or you want a full 1 hour lesson plan, we have a lesson plan. So what you can do is when you search for a lesson, for example, I think because my computer is quite, the net is quite slow, I'm going to the next page. So can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I typed out for present continuous and for A level, A1, A2 level. And there are a whole lot of lessons here. Plenty of lesson plans which you can pick out and choose according to the needs of your student. So you know your student better than anyone else. So go through the lessons, see the vocabulary, and choose whether it is suitable for your student or not. So I've taken an A1 because I'm teaching a beginner level. And there's another reason why I took an A1 level, because this has, 1 minute. Why is this not moving? Sorry. Yeah. So here for the present continuous, I have chosen this lesson plan of our holiday, which we saw in the list. And I'm so sorry that all this is opening very slowly because of the internet, in spite of keeping all this open. I don't know whether it's because there are too many people sharing the screen. No?
You want us to switch off the video or something?
No.
It should be okay. It's
Yeah.
probably the
I kept all this ready and was waiting for it to just pop up when I started. And unfortunately, it's taking a lot of my time and your time.
I think if we switch off our videos, then probably you'll have a better bandwidth. Would that work?
I don't know.
We can try that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So here, so this is the lesson. And here you find a page for preview of the worksheet. So before going to the preview, you can scroll right down and see there is a rating here. So you can look at the rating, see if the lesson is really good. Then you can choose the lesson. Again, while choosing, you can go for the preview. So I'm not going to go for the preview. I have the lesson already here. So I'll just open it up for you.
You might need to share the screen of the PDF. Stop this share and share. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So this is the lesson I was talking about. So here, this lesson, the advantage is you have a warm-up. And this is how the lesson is. So this lesson I had actually taught for one of my students. And my student is a very basic level student, like a low pre-intermediate. So what I did was, instead of following the same format that is in the lesson, you can adapt it. It's your choice how you want to play around with the lesson. The only thing is, the biggest advantage is you have the vocabulary, you have the language point. All you have to do is just rearrange the order if you want to. But some of the lessons are so good that you can just go by the flow with the same thing. So here you will find some vocabulary which is quite difficult for that level, like souvenirs and skiing, which they wouldn't have heard. So what I did was, first I started off with the warmer questions, get them to talk about their summer holiday or their city break, and then did a small pre-teach of the vocab of these words with pictures to show them what souvenirs are, what is skiing, and ask them to match the words with the pictures. Then came to this and asked them to match these. So that's how I changed this a bit. And then you have a listening here. Plus, after the listening, you have the fill in the blanks and then the exercise. Now here, the thing is, language point is questions in present continuous. That's because there was a previous lesson which has already done the positive and negative of the present continuous. So they focused on the right question tags here. And another advantage of doing this is, when you download this, the biggest problem for all of us is about copyright. And here we don't have the copyright issue because it says licensed for use in Aparna J's lesson, because I have downloaded it. Supposing it was a lesson which was downloaded by Thinkeng, you will find for use in Thinkeng Academy's lesson. So whenever you download a lesson, it is for you to use, and nobody is going to ask you why you're using this or how can you use it. And the next point I would say is, at the very basic level, you do have a small structure of teacher's notes, which you can follow. You have a key and a student copy. In the teacher's notes, you have the key of the answers and also this. You have, for all the activities, you will have a little bit of explanation of how the teacher can go about it. The Other thing which I would say is this you will not find in the higher levels. You'll only find it in the lower levels, not in the higher levels. And I forgot to mention one thing. In the in this Lingua House page, the first page, you will find that each of these lessons, you will find two icons here. One is a reel and one is a speaker, which means it has an audio and video input, which you can have a or video, they watch the video and then answer questions, or the language point is from there, or they just listen. And if you feel like what I'm doing now when there's internet problem, you can just keep the audio video on, but you don't have to share it. So they can just listen to the dialogue or the conversation, unless it is based on what they see. So these are the things which I found very helpful in my classes, especially with the lower classes. Higher classes, you have a lot of opportunities, a lot of inputs and websites. This Lingua House is really very, very structured, and it is the catering to the exact level. And there are some websites which I find the level might be a little high for our teachers or for our students. But for the higher levels, there is not a problem. You can choose from any website. But Lingua House, I completely go to Lingua House for this lower level classes, A1 to B2. So any questions?
Actually, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
There are two tabs, British English and American English. So is it the same lesson, but with just different?
Sorry, I haven't checked on that because we're only teaching British English.
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, I would probably choose that as well,
English.
but I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'll have a
look.
look.
But I have, in fact, I have actually looked at a few of them. So some of the, I don't know about the general English, the business English, the phrases that they use are a little bit different when it comes to the American versions, and the pronunciation. Suppose you have the audio, the accent is American, and whereas this is more neutral.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. So I will be sharing all this with you, so you don't have to worry about this. So those who want it, we can share this link in our next
meeting.
Like
I think for me, to be honest, like I definitely take this as a break from my course books. I don't plan the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I think that is the blend or the mix kind of helps.
An additional resource.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's nice to know where you can go if you want to change it up, because I've never seen this website, so I'm quite excited to go investigate.
Actually, where when they do the language breakup, and you see that page is a lot of it. So you can take it out of it and create your own way of explaining it on a PowerPoint presentation. That's what I do. I don't do it as it is from there. I juggle around a whole lot of things, reorder some of them, the control practice, the freer practice. And sometimes there is no freer practice there. Like it's just filling in the dialogues and asking them to repeat it. So instead of that, I would give my own freer practice at the end. Or I might even give them a follow-up. What I do is I take up some online game, which they can play with the grammar and the vocabulary as a practice. So
I have, in fact, just to add on, found it quite useful for IELTS speaking part 2. There are very very focused travel vocabulary lesson, which leads on to your task 2 practices. So you have the vocabulary, your adjectives you need to describe, then the phrases that you need to use, the collocations that come in it, and then your task 2, where you kind of use all of this. So in that way, for my IELTS lessons, I find it quite useful too.
And I want to add another thing, because I use Lingua House a lot for my teens class. And my student is at such an age where she's looking to go abroad and study and have more of a worldly exposure. So one thing about Lingua House is their lessons are all constantly updated. So they have current news items as news articles, or listening tapes that the students have to listen to, which I think it's like you get two benefits. You learn the language, but you're also sort of aware of what's happening in different parts of the world, which I find very useful for my teens lessons. So that's another point in Lingua House's favor.
So it caters to various levels. It's right from teens to adults, seniors, and level-wise also, not just the age groups, level-wise also.
I think since you subscribe, you have access to
more lessons. Yeah.
Yes.
Visuals are lovely.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Radha, you want to add something? I like that came in my direct message, so I just thought,
So I find Lingua House very useful even while writing content. Like sometimes I get stuck with the type of activities as control practice or something different apart from the gap fill and all that. So that really helps. So then I put in my own content. So
right, nice, awesome. Okay, so for the people who haven't used Lingua House, I hope this kind of helps. And thank you so much for doing such a detailed review as well. And so we have like 3 more minutes. If there is anything that any of you would like to share, add on, experiences, anything open to the floor is open.
Your experience or your teaching experience.
Yes.
Chat box. I think I've mentioned chat box earlier also for feedback. Because nowadays I'm using Radha. No, she's probably observed my lesson. I use a chat box a lot for feedback nowadays because it saves time.
Right.
So helps them to have a record, so they can just take a screenshot
of that. Yeah.
Okay.
So online lessons, I have started using chat box a lot nowadays.
Do you use it even for error correction?
Yes.
Oh, that's good.
Because I don't have to write it again. I can write as I can write as they're speaking. So it's saving a lot of time.
Yeah.
Right.
And earlier I used to send it in the private, like, one-on-one, but now I just type it in the group chat so that everyone can see. And I see, I mean, generally students don't mind.
Yes. They'll own up also to some of their mistakes. I made that mistake. I said that sentence.
They would say that is my sentence on the board.
My sentence is in the chat.
True.
I actually have a question for Sita. It's about the time given for a student to realize that they've made a mistake. I know you said, don't spend too much time trying to get the answer from them. So what do you think would be the ideal time, or how many attempts should you probably give the student?
Oh, that's so dependent on so many factors. But I would say if it's something they've already learned, or that you've already covered with them or corrected before, just a couple of attempts, or you can give them a little bit longer than you would if it's something they don't know. So a few seconds, 10, 15 seconds, because if you wait and stare at them for too long, also it makes them nervous.
Correct.
So it's kind of like, oh, I don't remember and it's not coming to my mind, so I don't know what to do. So 10 seconds, maybe, if you want to give it a number. If it's something they don't know, and you're just trying to see if they can fix it or correct it, then do it once, maybe a second time, and then help them out. Either tell them what it is or give them some direction. If it's something they've already done 2 or 3 times, you can kind of you can change your technique as you go along. So the first time you might do finger highlighting, and if they're still not getting it, you point to the finger and do the wobbly hand or the quizzical expression or something to add to that level.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome.
No problem.
I had a question, especially while correcting pronunciation, like where the mother tongue influence, the sir, boy, and all. So I find it challenging because correcting it too much also becomes a little sensitive issue for them.
Yeah.
And is in the beginner level, it's okay. For the higher level, they want to bring in that accent. They don't understand the concept that having a neutral accent is all right. That's the best way. And as a teacher, I feel sometimes even after, especially in one-on-one classes, group class, it's not possible at all. I just can tell them. But in one-on-one also, like there is a student who I'm really struggling with. Like he's from the eastern part. So the sir, and all. So is it all right that is sometimes now he is caught up with it, he says the wrong, realizes it once and then repeats it correctly. Still in that process, I mean, is it okay, or
I think that's fine. That's progress, if you ask me. The fact that he is able to identify that he's made the mistake and is able to attempt to correct it, that's definitely progress already. I think pronunciation is a hard one to correct in a short span of time, because we've been speaking one way for so many years. And if you're teaching adult learners, at least 20, if not more years of one type of pronunciation, and in one class we say, okay, now change it, stop saying that. So the tongue doesn't function in that way, it doesn't move as quickly. So I think it's okay, try and bring it to their notice. And I would say, if you notice that they consistently make the same kind of pronunciation error, you can tell them that and say, this is an area that you need to keep working on. So I might not correct it every single time, but just be aware of it. I might point it out, or I might just make a sound just to remind you that so that they don't feel like every time you're saying it, but you're also sort of putting the onus on them to fix it, because you can't change the pronunciation for them. They have to do that one on their own.
I have a question. In this case, could we probably, as a teacher, record the correct pronunciation and send it to them for them to listen and practice?
Yeah, that's a really good idea. That will give them many opportunities to do it on their own. Yeah,
absolutely. Awesome.
Definitely a good idea. And now we have the technology to do it also.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exactly.
I usually went back to those Cambridge Dictionary, and I used to tell them do that. But sometimes I find they get confused. They want to, adapt to that accent.
Yeah, I know. I think, I don't know if Aparna remembers, we used to do at the beginning of all our courses is to do some, questions about what the course will entail. And one of the things is helping them identify the difference between accent and pronunciation.
Correct, pronunciation. Absolutely
and,
right.
So needed.
Yeah, because I mean, unfortunately, they don't know, and they think speaking in a put-on accent is the right way to go, and it sounds very unnatural, and often you can't understand what they're saying because they've twisted their tongue into such a state that I struggle. I'm like, just speak normally. But sometimes I talk a little bit about identity, like your accent or the way you speak is part of your identity, so you don't want to change it completely to mimic someone else. You just want to make sure you're intelligible to speak to anybody from any country, and that's kind of your aim. Maybe clarify.
I remember this. We used to do it in the first class.
Yeah, right.
Spoken English.
Class,
agree, disagree.
Spoken English.
Yes, agree, disagree. Yes. An accent or pronunciation.
Yeah, and even highlighting, like someone will say, I want to learn British accent. You're working at British Council, teach British accent. So then I point out, I'm like, British accent, there is no one single British accent. If you go anywhere in the UK to different parts, you will hear different accents and different sounds. So highlighting that also.
And the best way to give that is when you're talking, if you're in India and Tamil Nadu, you can give them the example of the different places in Madurai, Chennai, Kovai. Tamil is Tamil, but everything is different.
Yeah.
Or in Kerala, Trivandrum, it's all different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So those are some techniques.
Different varieties of English are being accepted, are well accepted now all over the world. Malaysian English or Indian English or Sri Lankan English, it's all been accepted.
Correct.
That's a good point.
So there's no need to change the way you speak.
And Indian English, Indian English has done so well that pre-pone has been added to the dictionary.
I know.
And ayo. I was very excited about pre-pone because I remember being made fun of it once as a representative of India. I was made fun of it, like, oh, you guys say this. I said it's logical. Postpone, prepone, it makes sense. But now it's in the dictionary, so I have a little bit of a column of
awesome. Great. Anyway, thank you so much. So I'll just pass it over to Nikita to close the session for us.
Yes. So first and foremost, I'd like to say a huge thank you to Sita for conducting the workshop for us today. I felt like I was back in a CELTA class, and honestly, I don't remember having this much fun in CELTA. So you did it really well, and doing a freer practice and everything. I'd forgotten what it was like, but it was a lot of fun, and I really especially picked up the finger modeling thing, which I remember someone mentioning it a long time ago, but I think it really in this session brought to light how useful it could be. So thank you for that. And I'm sure we're all leaving this session with our heads that much fuller of information that you gave us. So thank you so much. Next, thank you so much, Aparna, for the lovely Lingua House presentation. And it's good that a lot of people already knew, and for the people who didn't, it's a mighty useful resource that you can definitely use in your classes. And especially the licensing problem that she mentioned, it is a huge headache that will be off your shoulders, because you don't have to worry about if anybody is going to catch you for that. So thank you for introducing us to Lingua House. Then I want to thank all of you for being present here today, and in our third session, and making it a huge success like it was the first 2 times as well. And we really hope that you guys keep coming to our sessions. And I'm so glad to see that TTT is so useful to all of you. And more than useful, I like that it's like a lot of old friends are coming together and just catching up and chatting. And I think that's the best part of creating a teacher community like this. So thank you, and please do keep coming back. And lastly, I'd like to thank Ambika, the spearheader of this entire initiative, without whom we wouldn't really be here today, for being such a wonderful host and moderator, and making sure everything runs smoothly. And very, very lastly, like Ambika and Aparna always like to say, thanks to the internet gods. I mean, they did let us down a little bit today, but we were still able to have a really good time. So thank you, and we really hope to see you next month too.
Awesome. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you, Sita.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.